Buenos dias, Akash, and thank you for joining us today at Business Spotlight Series. Today, we have Akash Sharda, owner of Spothost, director of Penny Lane, and an airline pilot. Welcome, Akash.
Hello, hi Javier. How are you?
Good, good, excellent. Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm very excited to be interviewing a serial entrepreneur and at the same time airline pilot. How do you manage to get so much done?
It's magic. It's magic.
Magic. Magic
Yeah,
in the air.
magic in the air. That's it. It's the eyes in the skies. That's what it is.
Brilliant,
You
brilliant.
know, um, but
And
yeah, in general, sorry, yeah.
you go, you go.
I was just saying in general, it's just about, prioritizing and delegating. But I would say one big thing is it's down to the team and it's a team effort. It's not just me, it's everyone that's around me. That's what allows me to do what I do, which is flying and manage obviously several parts of businesses that we run. So it's the team that allows me to do it all. A
Brilliant.
great team.
Yes. You
Yeah.
told me before that you are early 30s, right? You are in your early 30s and you've been flying for 12 years. So you were flying when you were like 20, 21, right?
That's right. Yes, I've been flying those jets, the 737 for since I was 20 years old. Yeah, since I was 20 years old, I was been flying, commercially as an airline pilot. So, yeah, it's a relatively young age to do it. Probably one of the youngest at a given time in my life. But yeah, it's a dream come true.
Yes. I mean, I fly a lot as a passenger, but from now on, every time I fly with Ryanair, I'm going to ask Akash here today. Okay.
Absolutely, come and say hello to in the flight deck. Definitely,
Definitely. That's
most certainly.
brilliant. How long does it take to become a pilot?
It took me about 18 months, 18
Okay.
months to do from basically zero to getting a full sort of license.
Yeah.
So 18 months is basically, I would say, the core training of, getting up to airline standard level. And then the airline that you join, you would do a further maybe 6 months of training to get fully qualified to work within the airline. So yeah, you're talking almost just over 2 years. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. And so you were an airline pilot, and then when did you start running your own business? How old were you, and which business was that?
So I started running Spothost, which is our short-term rental business, at a time when I got my command, which was my captaincy. I was 23 at the time, and that was just taking us back in 2016, um, where I, was given command in Ryanair, and at the same time I found a problem which I thought I could be the solution of, which was predominantly around a property that I owned in Glasgow. And given my flying schedule, I wasn't always around that property. And I thought there's a way I could probably generate and make money. And this is at a time where the short let market was growing, like Airbnb and everything was quite new. It was a new concept. And I thought, I couldn't give it in a long term rental because when I come back, I won't have somewhere to stay necessarily. But I could rent it out when I'm away flying, and if I'm based at the time, I was actually based in Marrakesh, so I was sent to Morocco to work there, and I had a secondment, so I was based out there for about 8 months, and I was commuting back and forth on my days off. So the 5 days that I was flying and I was in Marrakesh, I was listing my property up on Airbnb and allowing people to stay whilst generating income there. And then on my days off, when I'd come back and I could go into the property myself. So it allowed me to just make extra income really on the side. But what I found was that I was heavily reliant on family and friends to go out and do the cleaning, to go out and do the checking, to deal with all these sort of issues that arise with short-term lets. So eventually it came to a point where it wasn't really sustainable, or it wouldn't work in the long term. So this is where I thought of launching a company, because I realized that there must be a lot of people that must be in a similar situation to me, and they're looking for maybe a service that can deal with that. And I couldn't find anything in Glasgow at the time. There was a lot of services based down south, predominantly in the London area, slightly bigger market. People still weren't fully used to the Airbnb concept fully, and the short let market, it was just about to boom. And that's where Spothost was born, and that's when I launched the company to cater for those issues that I had. And it just grew year on year on from there onwards. You know, um, that's
Did it grow through people you knew that had properties and then, okay, Akash, can you run this property for me, or you just went to the market and advertised to recruit landlord?
Um, I would say that there were some people that I knew, but not very many, and people were skeptical of the whole idea, you know. And for a lot of people, property is a big thing, and they're very skeptical of a new business and a new concept. So you have to try and, you need to try and warm them up to the idea of how they can generate more money. And I had my own property as proof and as evidence, and I could show them this is how it works, this is what I'm generating, and this allowed people. And obviously, I also played on the fact that I was an airline pilot, you know, so I had responsibility, and it wasn't just somebody coming out of the blue saying, "Here's a business idea, and this is what I want to do." I was also using the credibility that I had for, you know, being a captain, and, you know, actually doing it and showcasing people. And this is where a lot of people then began, you know, that trust element started to kick in quite quickly. So I think we did a lot of marketing. We spent a lot of money on marketing, but it worked very well for us. And, you know, at one point we had Glasgow city centre covered with, you know, our brandings on buses, train stations, the
Really?
underground. Yeah, we were all over it. We did a huge marketing campaign. Even in Edinburgh, we did as well. Yeah,
Well
so it was really
done.
big. Yeah.
Yeah, you got a marketing agency to deal with that for you.
Yes, yeah. We'd signed up with a marketing agency, and we had a relatively large budget because we really wanted to come in with a big bang and make
Yeah,
noise and
yeah,
let people know, and that worked really well for us. You know, it worked really well.
brilliant.
So
That's great experience. And when you invest money in marketing, do you track the number of inquiries with the money you invest, or your return on investment? Basically, you spend X thousands, and what business do you get from it?
yes, absolutely, yes. I think, you know, we with every sort of marketing campaigns that we've ran, we've had elements of tracking put into place to see, you know, where this lead has come from and which part of it. And it's obviously a general thing which our account managers in the business ask landlords, where did they see us? Oh, I saw you in the underground stations, you know. Or if you've got a QR, we had QR codes in the taxis they could scan, so we'd know that's where they've come from as well. So there's a lot of tracking measures done. And, you know, I don't remember top of my head, but that there has been to where, you know, we were able to do that cost analysis and say, this is what we're spending, this is what we'd probably get in return, you know, and that's how we were kind of measuring it. But yeah, effectively the answer to that, yes, you know, there is trackers put in place for that. Yeah.
Brilliant, because I talk to many people, many businesses that they invest or spend money in marketing, and they hope, sit and pray that leads will come, and they don't track it, and they keep throwing money on it,
Yeah.
and without tracking the number of leads and clients they get from it. So yeah, numbers is the language of business. You need to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I mean, they talk about impressions that you make on sort of campaigns that you do and what that value is. And I think that's very important just because there has been campaigns that we've ran, which we've also recognized and seen that what is costing us is not bringing us what we actually, you know, what we'd expect to bring in. And therefore, it's not a reinvestment for us. We would change that and, you know, and maybe do something else somewhere else, whatever's working for us, you know.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
yeah,
Brilliant.
done that quite.
So, so you then set up a Spothost, and in 2016, and at the age of
Yes.
23, and then you were flying, you were building this business, and then you've now got involved into another business, which is
Penny Lane Homes.
Penny Lane. Okay, very
Yes.
catchy name, yeah. How
Yeah.
did it happen?
So Penny Lane came around purely because of another problem which we were seeing across the business. This was probably more important at a time of when COVID was around in 2020. You know, our business at Spottles was flourishing; it was growing year on, and then COVID came, and that, you know, that was a big dent on the business because a lot of people we lost. You know, our business was heavily reliant on the tourism and travel market. So not only was my flying affected, but the business was also affected in a lot of ways as well. So so we thought long and hard about, how we can, preserve our landlords and potentially give them guaranteed levels of income. And at a time, this is where maybe, the NHS key workers were looking for accommodation. People were isolating and they needed apartments to isolate in, etc. It was this whole thing. So, we were making it work somewhat with Spothost, but we were also seeing, a demand for our clients that were looking to go into the long-term market. So the long-term market is obviously regulated in Scotland. You need to be accredited. You can't just open, it's not the same as like Spothost or a short let. You can't just open a company like that. You need to have the qualifications. So during COVID, I basically got myself accredited. I did the qualifications, which basically allowed me to open up a letting agency, which was called Spotlet, and that's the name that we used, as a bounce off to Spothost, and Spotlet would basically take care of any long term properties that we had. So what basically effectively allowed us to do was it allowed us to retain our clients, because they weren't leaving us based on service. They were happy with the service. It's just that at the time we couldn't provide and give them that long term. We weren't accredited. So rather than passing that over to other agents, and claiming like a referral fee or whatever, or even for free of charge, we were like, we can just manage that ourselves. And that's what we started to do. So we started to do that, and they were quite happy with that, they never really lost. There was never any real loss of touch. They were still with their account managers who can manage the properties or the portfolios of properties in the long-term business as well. So that's basically what Spotlet allowed us to do. And we bought a small company at the time, which had maybe like around 50 properties in their portfolio. And that allowed us to test the waters to see how, this whole long-term game works and everything else. And we got the softwares, we got everything, and we started managing them. We started learning. We had an employee on board that was very knowledgeable in the property sector, for long-term. And because we came from our background business of Spothost, which is specializing on guest needs, as like if you were in a hotel, it has to be spontaneous, it has to be a responsive reaction to problems that may have happened. Our level of service was actually very good in the long-term market because, yourself, maybe in the long-term market, if you've got a tenant and their boiler's not working, it could be days before it gets fixed, But in Spothost, you can't do that. You can't have a guest checking into property, and if that boiler is not working, we need to either relocate them, or we need to figure a solution out there and then or get it fixed, So we were very responsive in our long-term in our long-term property rental business. So people really liked that, and they really got, that you guys are very quick. This is it. You guys get it sorted very quick. We're so used to that, though. But yeah. So that's basically where the long-term sector came around. And once we'd got that ideology, once we kind of figured out how the the long-term sort of market worked, then allowed us to expand, and we wanted to do something bigger with a company that was established and that had a good brand and everything. And that's where we saw Penny Lane Homes, and we got in touch. And one of my partners, Roberto, who's involved in it, he knew Mark on a personal level, and and basically, we managed to strike a deal with him and take over his business. He was looking to retire at the time and walk out. So yeah, and he found us quite fit to do that, coming from a short let background, and we'd obviously had the experience now with Spotlet a little bit. He was quite happy to allow us to take on his business.
Brilliant. So do you now run, so you have a Spotlet and Penny Lane, or you are merging the two?
So Spotlet is still a separate company. It still has properties in it, which is our small batch of properties. But we haven't really closed it down. My plan now in the long term slightly is to consolidate the companies, but we do like the separate identities just in case for various different tactics or tries that we want to maybe do in terms of branding. And if we want to test something, we might test it with with Spotlet rather than Penny Lane initially. So we're kind of playing it a little bit by ear. I'm not fully committed to closing it down, but I think in the long term, eventually it will be. But for now, we just like testing the waters a little bit with them.
Yeah. Very good. That's brilliant, brilliant. So 32 and really, never stop. So what drives you? What drives you in life? What, getting involved in, in business and, what's your driver?
I think it's passion. I'm very passionate and passionate about helping and passionate about growing. And I see myself as somebody that wants to, you know, enjoy. Like I've seen my parents work up until they're 65, and I've seen them retire at a very later age in life. And I always try and imagine myself, and I think they've worked very hard to get to where they are, and they've allowed us. But I don't want to. I don't want to be that same person working till then. I would rather take retirement at 35 and enjoy my life. Even though people tell me all the times I probably won't do that, just being too much of a workaholic. But it would be nice to take a little bit of a step back and have the comforts of life where you don't
Yes.
need to worry too much and just let things just flow. So I think I'm just driven in that way, and I'm quite passionate, like I said, of helping others and seeing other people do well as well. But also to make a life for myself, which I can enjoy later on as well.
Brilliant.
So
Yes. Yeah, I mean, is retire early. I think we think the same on that one. I mean, I'll die working on things that I love doing, right? And
yes,
it's reaching financial freedom. You have the financial
absolutely,
freedom to choose what you want and to where they
exactly.
actually want to work and so on. No, that's great. Very good. So I guess because of COVID, the short-lived market died because people were not moving around. And they said, okay, we need to shift, also there was a reason to pivot into the long-term led.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. That's basically how we came into it. Because like I said, we weren't losing people uh,
Yeah. On
on
service, not
service.
on,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
just because
Yeah.
we couldn't do it legally, and
Correct.
that was it.
Correct. Yeah.
So I thought, why not? And it was
Yeah.
COVID. It was quiet. I
Yeah.
had the time. I went
Yes.
through the qualifications, and then yeah, that
Yeah,
was it. Really,
fantastic. No, fantastic. It's a lot of businesses did that. They pivoted, okay. A challenge will always lead to an opportunity. And exactly, you are
100%.
giving
Yeah,
example of that. That's
definitely.
wonderful. What's one of your biggest challenges you've had to face in your entrepreneurial career?
I think biggest challenges probably um not having to let go of things which or in other words like having to delegate things which I'm so used to doing. Like, okay, I wouldn't say I'm like a controlling type of person in that way, but obviously it's almost like saying I find it faster and easier if I do it myself than having to sit there and tell someone how to do it. And I think what I probably the hardest thing for me is being, you know, letting that part go, and letting someone else do it. You know, maybe because they do it better in some areas. For example, marketing and stuff. I've always been like, I want to design it, I want to do this, I want to be involved in that part, but I don't like this. But then I'm also at the same time like my time should be more valuable doing what I am good at doing, and dealing with rather than focusing on these other things, give it to the experts, and letting that part go is probably the hardest challenge for me. And
Yes,
I find that very difficult,
yes,
to do.
yes. Yeah.
So
Well, I'm glad you say that because there are many people, many business owners who find that hard. I think is the entrepreneur syndrome. The thing of not
yes,
letting go, not letting go. Very common. I always say when I work with clients is the thing of delegate to elevate, and
definitely.
you want to elevate to the, if it's a quadrant, the top left is what you love doing and you are great at. That's where you want to spend 80% of your time. I love doing this and I am great at this. And that's your unique ability, really. And many
Yeah,
people, Akash, many people spend their time on the box bottom left, which is I don't like doing this, but I am good at it. And that's the hardest to delegate. It's
100%, definitely. And you're quite right. Yeah, absolutely, totally agreed. Yeah.
brilliant. Do you So what are the aspirations, for say next 5 years, next 10 years? Where do you want to get to?
Um, I think like we quite correctly said earlier, like financial freedom is one of those things, and I think in those coming years, that's maybe a personal target for me, but I'm also very passionate about the business and the branding and what we do being known. I want people to recognize what Spothost is. I want people to recognize who Penny Lane Homes are. And I think the dream is really to have a brand and have identity where people, can recognize and use and provide that level of service throughout, Scotland predominantly, but greater plans to expand further south. And who knows, wherever else, short let and long term is everywhere.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
think, yeah, and I think that's the ultimatum sort of goal, is to get the brand recognition and to have people make sure that this is the level of service and this is who we are and that's what we provide. So I think that's where, yeah, I'd like to see it.
That's brilliant. Well, Akash, it's been a real honor for me to interview you today at Business
Thanks, Xavier.
Spotlight Series. And thank you for sharing with us your journey and your experience and wisdom. Thank you so much.
No problem, Xavier. It's great speaking with you. Thank you so much for giving the opportunity.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.